This podcast is brought to you by the American Enterprise Institute.
If you like what you hear, please subscribe, rate, review, and share.
Thanks for listening. Here's our show.
What in the hell's going on?
What the hell is going on?
What the hell is going on?
I don't know what the hell he's talking about.
You don't have to know what the hell is on it.
What the hell's the matter with these guys?
We don't know what's going on.
What the hell's going on?
Who in God's name knows what it's all about?
Hi, I'm Danielle Pletka.
And I'm Marc Thiessen.
Welcome to our podcast, What the Hell is Going On? Marc, what the hell?
Well, we're continuing our experiment with a What the Hell Extra, which is that we're going to continue doing our normal pods where we bring you amazing guests who tell us what the hell is going on. But every once in a while, Dany and I write something to tell you what the hell is going on from our perspective. And we thought what we would do is we'd occasionally share some of these articles with you and then talk about them a little bit. And so Dany has a piece in her Substack entitled, Dany?
Joe won't go. It has a certain ring.
Why don't you share the piece with us and then we'll talk about it.
So, the piece is on our Substack, which is called What the Hell is Going On? And you can find it wherever you find Substacks, which is, what the hell is going on.substack.com. The piece is called hashtag what the hell, Joe won't go, and here's why. So, let's go. Let's be honest. We love the drama. How many of you have been watching the reactions to Joe Biden's disastrous debate performance, reading the innumerable Joe must go editorials and op-eds, and gulping at the fire hose-like stream of Democrats' panic stories? Yeah, me too. So I'm sorry to tell you, Joe won't go. I won't be the first to tell you. Eric Erickson actually has a really fine piece on this as well. And I might be making a terrible mistake. It does happen. Or so Marc always says. But here we go. Number one, he doesn't want to. And in our political system, when a person has all the delegates necessary to secure his party's nomination, only he can make the call. Biden likes being president. This is what he feels is the apotheosis of his brilliant career. And he's not going to let a bunch of scaredy cat whiners steal his glory. He actually used the term bedwetters, by the way, which I thought was gross. That is his character. And barring severe mental illness, most people's characters don't change as they age. Number two, Mrs. Dr. Biden doesn't want him to. Not to be a witch or anything, but she likes being Mrs. Dr. President. She gets nice clothes, people pay attention to her, she gets free flights, she makes decisions that affect the world in her husband's name, or so I'm told by irritated White House and congressional staff, and she is the decision maker most important to the president. Absent her encouragement, he's not dropping out. Number three, quote, democracy is on the ballot, unquote. No, I don't think that, and most of the American people don't either. But it's what the Bidens and the upper echelon Democrats think. And in the Biden logic that has come to dominate White House, West Wing thinking, Joe Biden was the only one who could beat evil Mr. Trump, and therefore he must do so again, quote, to save democracy, unquote. Facts don't matter here, nor do arguments about the obvious symbiotic relationship between Biden and Trump. This is what Biden believes. By the way, great piece, also on Substack, from our colleague Rui Teixeira on why the democracy is on the ballot argument is such a loser. Number four, it's actually more complicated than it seems. If Joe goes, who gets the nomination? You've all heard that they can't pass over Kamala Harris, who has no special privileges when it comes to succeeding Biden. I think that's rubbish with a capital R, but most importantly, it's not what the identity politics obsessed Democratic Party honchos think. Ask yourself whether hordes of angry black voters will really march on the White House demanding, "We want Kamala," and you'll see what I mean about this being an illusion. No one wants Kamala, but this is the trap the Democratic Party has built for itself. And stop harping, by the way, on the magical Michelle Obama option. How many times does that woman need to say no? She's not doing it. Number five, Biden world grifters don't want to lose the golden goose. Now, I think the Biden crime family meme that the GOP is selling is too much. Yes, Hunter's a crook. And it seems he may not be the only Biden who's gotten rich off of connections with Joe. Then again, that's true of almost every single political leader we've had in recent years. It's gross, but it's not as unusual as the screaming memes would have you believe. Nonetheless, there are few men in Washington as devoted to their family as Joe Biden, and that goes double for his weird ruminations about what his late son, Beau, quote, wants, unquote, him to do. In short, the Biden family isn't going to do the right thing for the man, the party, or the country. As Woody Allen might say, they need the eggs. It's not clear anyone else will beat Trump, number 6. Not Kamala, not Gavin Newsom. Finding a winner, and remember, Biden has already beaten Trump once, is not as simple as waving a magic wand. Lots of people like Gretchen Whitmer, but what matters is not whether we like her. Can she beat Trump? There are probably lots of other excellent reasons Grandpa Joe is not going to step aside, but these are the ones that stand out to me. You may argue, as has the New York Times, Tom Friedman, Nick Kristof, James Carville, and 9,000 others, that Biden is on track to lose, that having a diminished president is nuts, that effectively voting for Kamala is a terrible idea, etc. But your arguments and the New York Times aren't what matters. Biden gets to decide. And right now, my money is on him being on the ballot on November 5th. That's it. What do you think, Mark?
That was a great article. I think you are largely right. He's not gonna go willingly for sure. They're trapped by Kamala Harris and identity politics, as I think you indicate, but for a couple of reasons. One, because the party of identity politics can't kick a black woman vice president to the side in favor of a white male. Right? So Josh Shapiro, the moderate governor of Pennsylvania, or Gavin Newsom, the liberal governor of California, ain't going to be a white male that's going to step over Kamala Harris's corpse in the street to ascend to the Oval Office. So that's not going to happen. 2, I was on Fox Radio this week with a Democratic analyst the day after the debate, and one of the things he pointed out was the only part of their base that they're not struggling with is black women. And so if they want to cause trouble with that segment of the electorate as well for themselves, go ahead and kick Kamala off to the side. And then also the other thing is, the Wall Street Journal reported she's the only one who can inherit the money that they raised. So if Joe steps aside and Kamala becomes the nominee, all the money the Biden-Harris campaign has raised can be used for the presidential campaign. If it's somebody else, they don't get that money.
The money goes to the money goes to the DNC, if not, and of course, effectively, if it goes to the DNC again. But I mean, I get, Mark, the thing that I don't understand is, yeah, I get why they're obsessed with Kamala Harris, because they're always obsessed with people of color for one reason or another. But has she stood out to you over the last 3.5 years as a champion of black women, or as somebody who black women are super proud of? I mean, Michelle Obama, totally, I get that. Barack Obama, totally, I get that. But Kamala Harris, doesn't everybody, including black people, think she's an idiot?
Well, the polls would seem to suggest that. So, Joe Biden, as I have pointed out on this podcast before, and I do in my regular commentary, Joe Biden is the most unpopular president since the end of World War II. Okay? Kamala Harris is less popular than he is. If you look at the RCP average, I looked at it the other day, he's at like 39.5%. She's at 36. So she's an albatross around the neck of the Democratic Party. They're not going to get rid of him in order to get her, and she's somebody who can't put a sentence together, but she doesn't have the excuse of age, unlike Joe Biden, right? But the other reason we have to keep in mind why I think you may be right that Joe Biden is going to stay on the ticket is, why is he president in the first place? Because they couldn't find an alternative. They looked high and low for anybody who could be other than Joe Biden, who could win the nomination. Everybody else flamed out in the Democratic primaries. Bernie Sanders was heading towards the nomination, and all of a sudden they just said, we got to all step aside and rally around Joe Biden. He's an old, genial moderate. He can be the Trojan horse for all the socialists to get in and sneak their way into the White House gates and unleash socialism on the country. And that's exactly what happened. There's no other Trojan horse. And if Joe Biden were to step aside, do you think for a second that the Democratic Socialist, the Bernie Sanders wing of the party, is going to say, yeah, let's nominate Josh Shapiro? Let's even better. Let's do Joe Manchin. Let's find some centrist moderate who can really appeal to the center. That's what we're going to do. No, they're going to try and nominate one of their own. There's going to be a civil war inside the Democratic Party for the heart and soul of the party, such as it is. And so I just don't think that this is so much more complicated than people think it is. And that's probably why you're right. It's probably not going to happen.
You know what, though? I mean, I went into why it's complicated, and there's no question it is. But I mean, there has to be a way around it because, of course, you have had presidential candidates die. They can die.
No, I mean
and then you
politically
find a way.
complicated.
Yeah, no, but I agree with you. But I actually think that beyond all of that, the most important thing is they are going to pry that thing out of his cold, dead hands. Joe Biden doesn't want to step aside, and so what we've seen since that disastrous debate, what we've seen is the first day, which was damage control. Oh my God, hand rigging. Oh, it's so terrible. Oh my God, he screwed up. Oh, it's so awful. To now, what they're doing, which is this is all the fault of the staff. This is all Ron Klain's fault. This is all the fault of CNN. This is all the fault of the mic. This is all the fault of his cold. It's, as somebody said really nicely, I can't remember who I'm quoting, it is the classic lack of personal responsibility approach that the Democratic Party brings to everything, right? Joe Biden isn't at fault. It's everybody else. And the fact that his mommy, Dr. Mrs. Biden, had to walk him off the stage and then made that cringe statement, Joe, you answered all the questions. That was so terrible that I can't believe he can get past this, but he's going to hang on.
So could I tell you, last night I flew back from Chicago where I went to see the Rolling Stones. And for 3.5 hours, watched Mick Jagger prancing around, strutting around the stage, doing the rooster, pointing fingers, all the rest of that. He's the same age as Joe Biden. Literally, like if they're but 6 months apart or something like that. Same age. If Joe Biden was in the same shape as Mick Jagger, no one would care. But he is not in the same shape. And for the last couple of years, everyone talks about all the lies Trump told during the debate, and Trump lies. Fact checkers, let's do a fact check on Donald Trump. How about the fact check on the fact that the White House has been telling a big lie for 3 years that, oh no, these are all cheap fake videos, and that in private, when we're behind the scenes, he's super, super sharp and on top of things, and he asks the tough probing questions and blah, blah, blah. It was all a big ass lie.
That's
a ginormous, it's the big lie, capital B, capital L, that they've been lying to the American people. And then the American people looked by the tens of millions, tuned in, and saw that they had been lied to, that he wasn't. And, he couldn't do the rooster. He couldn't get off the stage without Dr. Mrs. Jill Biden to help him down off the stage. The Democrats are talking about, should we remove him from the ticket? He should be removed from the presidency. I mean, remember all the 25th Amendment talk about Donald Trump at the end of his presidency? How the cabinet should step in and remove him from office. I'm sorry, where's the talk about the cabinet today? If you admit that Joe Biden is too mentally unfit to be your nominee, you are acknowledging, and that's another reason why they probably won't do it, you're acknowledging that he's mentally unfit to be president. You can't have one without the other.
No, that's a huge point. And in fact, I think a bunch of people were starting to talk about that this weekend, which is if we don't think he's fit for the election, what the hell are we doing for the next 6 months with this guy in office? And of course, the answer is we're doing what we've been doing for the last 3.5 years, which is that we've got this weekend at Bernie's situation in the White House. But as the world becomes more and more dangerous, as Putin and China, and that's the other thing is it wasn't just we who saw him, It wasn't just we who saw the really sad, the pathetic image of this poor man being propped up by, the likes of Hunter and Jill Biden to once again pretend to the American people that he is compos mentis enough to be president. It's also the Chinese, it's the North Koreans, it's the Iranians, it's the Russians, it's everybody. And all of a sudden, by the way, all the stories start spilling out. So he was at the G7 summit where he wandered off, if you remember, and Giorgia Meloni, the Italian prime minister, went to rescue him. And we were told that was a
cheap
video. That was a cheap fake video. That's not what happened. And all of a sudden, from behind the scenes now, everybody is coming forward to the various newspapers, the New York Times, the Financial Times, and telling them that his appearance at the G7 was a debacle. So I don't know how we lost another 6 months with this guy, but I do think if he stays on the ticket, he loses.
So serious question for you, Dany. Who's making the decisions? Who's running the country? Because, I mean, seriously, he's not. That guy on that stage is not running the country. I mean, is he the one who decided to stop aid to Israel? To stop the delivery of heavy bombs? Is he the one who's deciding how far into Russian territory the Ukrainians can fire U.S. weaponry? Who's making these decisions? I mean, is it Edith Wilson, aka Mrs. Dr. Joe Biden? Or is it Jake Sullivan? Or is it Tony Blinken? I mean, somebody's president. It's not Kamala.
No, I know. Look, it's a
You know,
24-hour-a-day job. You saw the piece in the Wall Street Journal that came out on Saturday. It said that he is sort of lucid between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. But being president
Oh, good. So we'll have all our crises then.
Yeah, no, exactly. Look, this is the hope of the Democratic Party and the Joe Biden enablers that this is going to go away is wrong. It's not going to go away, and he may be able to perform better, but by God knows how. But he may be able to perform better on occasion, and he did in a couple of the rallies after the debate. But he's still the man who was at that debate, and they can't lie.
Oh, and also the other one, the cold. So literally he leaves the debate and goes to a Waffle House and starts shaking hands with everybody. What happened to social distancing? And then he goes in the next day and he's speaking perfectly with a teleprompter. So I guess this cure for the common cold is waffles and a teleprompter. We've been waiting for years for medical science to give us the cure, but we found it. Joe Biden. Operation Warp Speed. We've cured the common cold.
Where was Dr. Fauci when we needed him? Hey, so I want to explain one last thing to everybody. As I finished reading the piece, but I used a reference in the piece that is one of my favorite things that I use all too often in politics, and I quote Woody Allen. And let's exit with me repeating that great Woody Allen line. So, man goes to a doctor, and he says, "Doctor, we have this terrible problem. My brother-in-law, he thinks he's a chicken." And the doctor says, "Well, it sounds to me like he needs treatment. Why don't you bring him to me?" And the guy goes, "Well, we would, but we need the eggs." I feel like that describes so much of what happens in Washington. Here is my insane idea, which is insane. Someone points it out, and then you're like, yeah, but we have to do it because it's my idea. So anyway, with that, yeah, I think we agree. Joe won't go. Thanks, folks, for being with us.
And let us know if you like these. We're going to keep doing them for a little bit, and we'll see how it goes. And if you like it, we might not do it every week. Depends on what we produce and what we write. But a little extra. I was joking. We should probably call it, "What the hell did I write this week?"
God knows that's what we say, Mark.
Exactly.
Take care, everybody. Oh, and you can get us on whatthehell@aei.org if you want to write to us and let us know what you think. Thanks again for being with us.
Take care. Let us know what topics you'd like us to cover. You can get in touch with the show by emailing us at whatthehell@aei.org.
Or you can reach us on Twitter. I'm at @dpletka.
And I'm at Marc Thiessen. That's Mark with a C.
Please rate and review the podcast. If you like the show, please subscribe, share it, comment on Apple Podcasts, or wherever you're listening to this.
Thanks for listening.